Once again, we're somewhere near the Canadian border, this time in New York. St. Lawrence Center is a mall that was built with the intent to capture a Canadian audience, only to fall to the wayside. Let's go see just how far it has fallen. St. Lawrence Center's story begins in 1990 when it opened its doors for the first time. Under the guidance of the Heritage Company, the mall would host Hills, JCPenney, Chappell's, and Sears. The mall was built primarily to capitalize on two things: the working class in Messina and the surrounding area, as well as Canadian shoppers in Cornwall looking for better deals across the border. It did make more sense than you might think, as there was a time when the border checkpoints were packed with cars going both ways. Unfortunately, over the 90s, the Canadian shoppers began to dwindle in their journey to Messina, and this alone was causing the mall to slip. And over time, the industrial zones in the area were shrinking, and today, Messina's industry is a mere fraction of what it once was. In 1995, the mall would quickly sell off to AP Messina Partners, and around this time, Ames would acquire Hills, only to close permanently in 2002. The vacancy left behind by Ames had a lot more strife between the mall itself and the city than you might think. The city of Messina attempted to eminent domain the space to put in a Walmart store back in 2006, but this failed. Instead, a Steve & Barry's came to fill the void in 2007 before its untimely demise in 2008. In 2009, the mall owners attempted to draw in a Target to fill in the space, but this also failed, leaving the space vacant to this day. In fact, you might not notice, but the mall leading to that anchor has been walled off. TJ Maxx was in the mall at one point in time, but would depart in 2012, while Sears would close in 2014, leaving behind a much smaller hometown concept in its place. This hometown store only lasted a few years before closing in 2017. What happened to Chappell's, you may ask? They were taken over and rebranded as Bon-Ton long ago, and the store did remain for some time before its lease expired in January 2018. Bon-Ton chose not to extend their lease, leading to the store's closure that year. Not that this really mattered, as the entire chain would go down later that year. By now, vacancies were beginning to climb, and the mall had to change. An ice rink was built into the mall in an effort to offer recreational activity, but in August 2016, this closed due to unspecified mechanical issues and only recently got converted into a roller skate rink. The mall manager at this time did make a serious effort to try and make the mall viable, drawing in more local tenants. Oddly enough, this mall managed to survive the wrath of 2020 and even reopened for business after Führer Cuomo's directives began easing up. Today, while the mall is still open, only Shoe Department, Maurice's, Olympia Sports and JCPenney remain as the national chains for the mall, while smaller businesses pepper the interior. Inline occupancy is very slim, and Wendy's, the last food court tenant in the mall, had closed out despite making it through 2020. However, stories of community events and even concerts being held in the former TJ Maxx do make the rounds, and it could be possible that the St. Lawrence Center is transitioning towards a community center. Whatever may happen, I wish the current developers, Shapiro Group, and their local manager the best in the future. St. Lawrence Center. Oh, what went wrong? Where did all the stores go? To think that this had happened to the mall is just kinda saddening in my opinion. And it's a shame too, because I really like the earth tones present within the mall, along with the lampposts and the clock by the food court. While it's not the brightest inside the mall, it still felt like a relatively inviting space. I would have hung out there if I lived locally. But there's no beating around the bush. This mall is dying out. Out of all the available space, I am guessing that this mall is maybe 20% occupied, and that's with some generous rounding. Even after my visit, there are still stories about tenants leaving the mall. I imagine it might be more to do with the lack of maintenance, however, as there are a fair number of ceiling issues, which I was attempting to politely avoid. Those leaks have to be addressed and fixed. If only I could let you hear the audio of the mall interior. You haven't lived until you've heard "Hello Darkness, My Old Friend" on those mall speakers. As for this mall's future, I would not be surprised if it closed altogether in the next year or so. However, it is surprising to see the mall become home for an array of community events, like fireworks displays on the 4th of July, or even the concerts in the TJ Maxx space like I mentioned before. It seems that the manager at least has some plans to keep this mall in the community to some degree. It'll also help offset the sad feeling this mall ends up giving me. Maybe they'll double down on the community events, or maybe there's another plan in the works. We'll just have to wait and see, like so many other places. It is just about time to wrap up at this mall. What did you think about the St. Lawrence Center? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you ever wonder why the so-called Dead Mall King never went here, despite it being in relatively close proximity? Do share your thoughts in the comments below, as I make my way out. Thanks for having me, Messina. And until next time, this is Doomie Grunt, wishing you and the St. Lawrence Center farewell and good luck in the future. I'm gonna be straight up with you guys. That mall makes me want to cry. Rest in peace, St. Lawrence.